Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the world of PR today with Liz H. Kelly's book, 8-Second PR, New Public Relations Crash Course. We'll be uncovering some really cool strategies for making a splash in this crazy, fast-paced world.
Sounds like fun. It really is a different world out there.
So Kelly kicks things off with a pretty wild statistic.
Oh,
The average adult attention span, get this,
okay.
it's just 8.25 seconds.
Seriously.
Shorter than a goldfish. Hard to believe, right?
That is crazy. I mean, what does that even mean for someone trying to get their message out there? Like for their company or themselves or anything, really?
Right. It's like you've got this tiny window to make an impact. Every word, every image has to count, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not enough to just have a great product anymore.
No, not at all.
You need to have a great story.
It's all about that wow factor.
Exactly. A wow story, as Kelly calls it.
Yeah, those moments when you hear something and you're instantly hooked.
Right. You're just like, tell me more.
But how do you actually create that? How do you make people go, wow?
Well, Kelly breaks it down into the 3 C's of wow storytelling.
3 C's.
Yep. Clear, concise, and compelling.
I like it.
Think about that Dove Real Beauty Sketches campaign.
Oh, yeah, that was powerful.
They took something pretty basic, soap and lotion,
Right.
and turned it into this really profound statement about self-image and beauty standards.
Totally. It really stuck with people. They weren't just selling products. They were tapping into a universal human experience.
Absolutely. So it's not about being flashy or gimmicky.
No.
It's about finding that emotional core that your audience can really connect with.
Like that gut feeling that, oh, I get that kind of thing.
Exactly. And this doesn't just apply to big companies either.
Oh, interesting.
Think about Beyoncé.
Okay.
Her personal and business brands, they're completely intertwined. Every single detail is designed to reinforce her overall image.
So it's about understanding what makes you unique or your company unique,
Yeah.
and then building that narrative around it.
Exactly. And these days, so much of that is about your online presence.
Oh, for sure.
Kelly really emphasizes this. Securing your .com. Making sure your social media handles are consistent.
It's like your digital storefront.
Yes. You want to make it easy for people to find you.
Because how many times have you tried to find a company online
Oh, I know.
and you end up on some random page because they didn't have their .com?
The worst.
Such a missed opportunity.
And what about mobile? Everyone's on their phones these days.
Oh, absolutely. Kelly talks about how crucial it is to have a mobile-friendly website.
You're probably reading this on your phone right now.
Exactly. So if your website is a pain to use on mobile,
Yeah.
you're basically turning people away.
Yeah, that's a bad first impression.
And high-quality photos and videos,
Mhm.
those are essential too.
Oh, totally.
They tell your story visually.
You've got to grab people's attention.
Right, and they're getting bombarded with information every second.
So a great image or video can really make you stand out. Exactly. Kelly even talks about the TAO nightclub mobile marketing campaign.
What do they do?
They had amazing results just by using targeted text messages with offers.
Wow, so simple but effective.
Right. It's all about meeting your audience where they are.
Speaking of strategy, what about YouTube?
Oh, YouTube's huge. Kelly uses this example of a Captain America video.
Yeah.
It went viral, almost 1 million views, and she points out that the key was using the right keywords.
Oh, that makes sense.
People need to be able to find your content.
So it's like you can have the best video in the world, but if no one can find it.
It's as good as invisible.
That's a good point. So keywords are like your map, guiding people to your treasure.
Exactly. What about getting media attention? That always feels a bit intimidating.
It does. It's like a whole other world to navigate.
It is, but Kelly has some great advice on that. She calls it the media hook superpower.
Ooh, I like it. So what's the superpower?
It's all about making your story irresistible to journalists. You have to find that perfect hook, that timely and relevant angle that makes them want to cover it.
Because they're probably getting 1 million pitches a day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So yours has to stand out. It can't just be a generic press release.
Right.
You need to tailor your pitch to each specific media outlet and journalist.
Okay, so do your research, know your audience.
Exactly. She uses the example of realtor Debbie DiMaggio.
What did she do?
She actually created different pitches for different publications, like Unique Homes Magazine, KGO AM Radio, and others.
So she highlighted different parts of her business to appeal to each audience.
Exactly. It's about being strategic and understanding what each outlet is looking for.
It's like dating. You got to make a good first impression.
Haha, exactly. And speaking of dating, building media relationships takes time.
Yeah, it's not just a one-time thing.
No, not at all. So how do you go from a cold pitch to being a trusted source?
That's the million-dollar question.
Well, Kelly says it starts with knowing your target audience. Then you focus your energy on the media outlets and influencers who can reach those people.
So quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not about getting your name in every single publication out there. It's about being strategic and choosing the ones that will really make a difference. She talks about Tom Wheelwright, the tax expert.
Okay.
He was super successful by focusing on specific publications like Entrepreneur and the Washington Post.
So he knew exactly where he wanted his message to appear.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that podcasts are becoming a huge force for reaching niche audiences.
Podcasts are so popular these days. I feel like everyone has one.
Right. And Kelly actually includes insights from a top podcast host, Laura Michelle Powers.
Oh, cool.
So you get that insider perspective on how podcasts are changing the media landscape.
They're definitely a powerful tool for connecting with an audience.
Totally. They offer this level of intimacy and in-depth discussion that you don't always find in other media.
It's like having a conversation with the listener.
Exactly. And that brings us to a super important part of PR interviews.
Oh yeah, interviews. Some people love them, some people dread them.
Haha, true. But Kelly makes it clear, preparation is key.
Oh, definitely. You can't just wing it.
No way! You have to know the interviewer's style, think about what questions they might ask, and practice your talking points.
She even has a story about a client who wasn't prepared.
Oh yeah, it didn't go well. It's a good reminder that practice really does make perfect.
So true. Okay, so you're prepped and ready for your interview. What about on-camera presence? How do you make sure you come across as confident and engaging?
Well, first and foremost, be yourself. Let your personality shine through. People can spot a fake a mile away.
People connect with authenticity for sure.
Exactly. Kelly gets some great examples of sound bites that really made an impact. One was about Ebola, and another featured the spokespeople for Warrior's Heart.
What made those sound bites so effective?
They conveyed information clearly and passionately. It was the perfect blend of information, engagement, and authenticity, like the trifecta of storytelling.
I love that. And speaking of storytelling, let's talk about how to stay relevant.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Kelly calls it repositioning.
Okay, what does that mean?
Basically, it's about finding ways to keep your story fresh and relevant, even as trends and news cycles change. You have to adapt and evolve.
So how do you do that?
Well, she uses the example of pitching Omar L. Harris to CNN HLN Weekend Express.
Interesting.
It was a perfect storm of the right spokesperson, the right timing, and a story that really resonated.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where your story intersects with current events and what people are interested in.
Absolutely. And you have to be adaptable, ready to adjust your message as needed. She also tells this great story about Bez Ponce's charity bike ride.
What was that about?
It shows how powerful a local angle can be.
Oh yeah, local stories can really grab people's attention.
And sometimes those local stories can lead to bigger things, like a ripple effect.
Exactly. You start small, build momentum, and before you know it, your story is reaching a wider and wider audience.
You know, for me, it's the focus on storytelling that's really sticking with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not enough to have a great product or service these days. You have to really craft a narrative around it, something that grabs people, you know, makes them feel something.
Absolutely. We're all storytellers, whether we realize it or not. It's how we connect, make sense of the world.
And that whole 8-second attention span thing, it really changes the game.
It really does. It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, every single word matters.
Every image, every second, it's like a call to action to be concise, direct, impactful with your message.
No more rambling.
No fluff, just get straight to the point.
I love how Kelly gives those super practical tips for creating those media hooks that people can't resist.
Oh yeah, that's gold.
I feel like I've got this whole new toolkit now for getting my story out there. It's all about thinking like a journalist. What would make them actually care? What's the angle that ties your story to what's happening right now, you know, makes it relevant?
And she's really big on building relationships with the media. It's not just about sending out a generic pitch and crossing your fingers.
No way, it's about being strategic.
Do your research, know your audience. You know,
Exactly, and nurture those connections over time.
treat journalists like partners.
Yeah, like any relationship, you have to put in the effort. And remember, it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Practice is key.
That story about the client who wasn't prepared for the interview, oof,
A classic example of what not to do.
it really highlights how important practice is.
Know your stuff, anticipate the questions, and practice, practice, practice. And don't be afraid to let your personality come through.
I love that she uses props to make a point. like with her sunglasses at the Megabook Marketing Conference.
Yeah, that was fun.
Sometimes it's those little things that help you stand out, be memorable.
Absolutely. Whatever makes you feel more confident and at ease, a prop, a power stance, or just taking a deep breath before you speak.
So moving on, let's talk digital. It's a whole other world, constantly
Look,
changing.
it's a fast-moving target, that's for sure. Kelly's a big believer in owning your digital space, Get that .com URL, consistent social media handles. It's all about building your digital brand.
And mobile optimization, that's huge.
Huge. Think about it. How often are you reaching for your phone to look something up or browse social media?
All the time.
Right. So having a website that's mobile-friendly, that's non-negotiable.
It's all about making that good first impression. And high-quality photos and videos. Those are key, right?
They are. They're like the visual storytellers for your brand. Think of them as your digital handshake.
It's true. So much thought goes into crafting that online presence. And influencer marketing, that's a whole other ballgame.
Oh, it's a powerful tool. It's basically word-of-mouth marketing on steroids. You know that Nielsen report she mentions? People trust recommendations from friends and family, even those online influencers, way more than they trust ads. It's about finding influencers who genuinely align with your brand and building real relationships with them. It's not about just paying for a shout-out.
More like a collaboration.
Exactly. It's like what we see at CES, all those influencers trying out new gadgets and sharing their excitement. Okay, let's talk podcasts. They're kind of the cool kids on the block right now, wouldn't you say?
Totally. Feels like a new podcast pops up every day.
And Kelly really highlights their power, especially for reaching those niche audiences. Whatever you're into, chances are there's a podcast for it.
It's such a different way to connect, more intimate and personal.
More like a conversation than a broadcast. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about reinvention. Staying relevant, keeping your story fresh.
It's about being adaptable, right?
Exactly. The media landscape is constantly evolving. Kelly talks about pitching Omar L. Harris to CNN HLN Weekend Express.
Yeah, what made that pitch so successful?
It was a combination of things: the right person, the right time, and a story that hit all the right notes. It's about hitting that sweet spot where your story lines up with what people are interested in right now.
And remember that story about Buzz Ponce's charity bike ride? He used a local angle to get attention and support his cause.
Such a good example of how you don't have to be a big name to make a difference. Sometimes the most powerful stories start right in your own backyard.
And those local stories can have a ripple effect.
Exactly. You start small, build momentum, and before you know it, you've got a global audience. And speaking of stories that resonate, that Warrior's Heart feature on the Today Show, that was powerful.
It was.
Kelly and her team really worked hard to get that segment on air. It's a story about resilience, collaboration, and the power of storytelling.
It really highlights everything we've been talking about, crafting a compelling narrative, building relationships, being prepared, and making the most of every opportunity. It's a reminder that PR is a marathon, not a sprint.
It takes dedication, for sure. It takes effort and a whole lot of heart. But when it all comes together, the results can be incredible. So as we reflect on everything we've discussed, what does that wow factor in storytelling mean to you? What makes a story truly unforgettable?
That's a really great question. And I think it's going to be different for everyone.
Of course.
But for me, it's those stories that stick with you, the ones that make you think, make you feel something.
The ones you can't shake.
They inspire you to do something, to take action.
It's about creating a real connection with your audience.
Being authentic, vulnerable, sharing those human experiences that we all go through.
And those unexpected moments, the things that surprise you.
Like that viral Captain America video, it wasn't just a superhero story. It was something more. It was a genuine, heartwarming moment that really resonated with people.
Exactly. It went beyond just grabbing attention. It created an experience that had a lasting impact.
And that impact can take so many forms. Inspiring someone, changing their perspective.
Or just making them feel seen and understood.
Using the power of storytelling to make a difference, that's what it's all about. And that's what I find so inspiring about Kelly's book. It shows that anyone can be a wow storyteller.
It's about finding your voice, what makes you unique, and being brave enough to share your story, even if it's not perfect.
Because sometimes those are the stories that connect the most, the ones that remind us that we're all human.
So if you're feeling inspired to unleash your inner storyteller, here's a challenge for you.
Okay, I like a challenge.
Think about what makes your story special. What are those things that set you apart?
A personal experience, a
Mhm.
statistic that blows people's minds, a behind-the-scenes peek.
Whatever it is, use it to really paint a picture for your audience. Make them feel like they're right there with you.
And don't be afraid to try different things. Play around with different formats, see what works.
PR is all about being creative, being willing to adapt and learn.
And maybe your story will be the next one, to go viral and make a real difference in the world.
You never know where it might lead. But it all starts with sharing your voice.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in trying to be someone you're not, especially in the world of PR.
It's true.
But in the end, it's that authenticity that really makes you stand out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about crafting compelling stories, being strategic online, building those relationships with the media.
Right?
But what about that 8-second attention span? That feels like a huge hurdle to overcome.
It is a challenge, no doubt, but it's also an opportunity, If you can really grab someone's attention in those first 8 seconds,
You're golden.
you're in. You've got to make it count.
Yeah.
Think about those Super Bowl commercials, the ones that everyone's buzzing about the next day.
Oh, yeah, they're really good ones.
They tell a story, they make you feel something, and they stick with you, and they do all that in just a few seconds.
It's amazing what they can do with such a short amount of time.
So it's not just about being brief, it's about making those seconds count.
Really using them wisely.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's something you can practice in all your communication, whether it's a tweet,
Or an elevator pitch.
even a presentation. How can you boil down your message to its core and deliver it in a way that really grabs people?
It's like a muscle you have to exercise, right?
Exactly. The more you practice, the better you'll get at capturing attention and making your message memorable.
And sometimes, wow, storytelling doesn't have to be complicated.
Sometimes, simple is best.
Like that BuzzPonce bike ride story, just a local story with a big heart that really touched people. It shows that you don't need a big budget or a fancy PR team to have an impact.
It's all about finding those stories that resonate, those authentic, relatable stories that connect with people on a human level.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into 8-second PR, what's the one thing you really hope listeners will take away from all of this?
For me, it's that PR isn't just about spin or hype. It's about sharing your story in a way that feels real and engaging and makes a difference. And in this fast-paced world we live in, it's crucial to be strategic and creative and ready to adapt.
And never forget those 8 seconds. We've covered a lot of ground today, from crafting a compelling story to navigating the digital world, building those all-important media relationships.
It's a lot to take in, but remember, it all comes back to the power of storytelling.
It's the heart of it all, and everyone has a story to tell. So what's yours?
What will you share with the world?
What a great question to leave everyone with. Think about what makes your story unique and how you can use these strategies to really make it shine.
Go out there and make some noise.
Until next time, happy storytelling, everyone.